All right, I know. Oh, there I am. Hello. Hi, it's good to see all of you. Welcome to our beautiful spiritual center. Here we are at the Ventura Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Reverend Bonnie Rose, and you are you, and it's great to see you. So let's have you all stand up. We'll sing our congregational song. We allow ourselves to become still and move into that place that Rick brought us to. Breathing into the heart space. Trusting and knowing that God is everywhere and that God is most certainly here within us. Revealing itself to us, allowing us to be more of who we came here to be, showing us the face we had before we were born. And so let us breathe and trust and know. Let us have our own inner testimonial as we once again reveal the spiritual truth about our being. That we are that I am presence, that we are the presence of love, that we are the presence of grace, that we are the presence of life, individually expressing as each of us. Let us rest in that awareness now as we sing together, I am remembering. And we bring everything we are and everything we are not to the stillness, recognizing that everything we are and everything we are not is wholeness, perfection, oneness, grace, power, presence. And that just like the silence is always there beneath the busyness and the noise and the mental chatter, so is our true nature. So is the presence of God within us. So let us remember that once again as we breathe in deeply. And then exhale, opening our eyes, loving what is as it is, and so it is. Oh, good, Rick's kids came back.
Hey, greetings to everybody on this beautiful day. The beautiful days have been following me and my wife all the time recently. I don't know what it is, but this is a tune I'm doing today about claiming your inheritance, really, I think is what it boils down to. It was written by a man named Lalo Schifrin who lived in Ojai, and it was the title song from the movie Cool Hand Luke called Down Here on the Ground. Down here on the ground ain't no place for living. Down here on the ground, watching sparrows fly. I watch the birds as they make their way, flying sort of free. Oh, I wish it was me. But I'm down here on the ground, wanting something better. Down here on the ground, wanting something more. One morning sure I'm gonna find there are wings on my mind, gonna take me high. If you hear a sound down here on the ground, my friend, it's only me trying to fly. If you hear a sound way down here on the ground. My friend, is only me trying to fly. My friend, is just me trying to fly.
That was Fred McFadden and John Cross. Yay. While I'm doing acknowledgments too, I also want to acknowledge that we have a different sound man today, Malcolm, who we love. Thank you, Malcolm, for doing our sound. Yay. And today is a special Sunday because it's Testimonial Sunday, as many of you know, and that's when we get people from the congregation to stand up and testify, right? Amen and hallelujah. What really happens is I go into meditation and think about people that come to mind who perhaps have a story that they'd like to share. One of the blessings of my position here as the senior minister of this spiritual center is that I get to hear a lot of great stories about how these principles have changed people's lives. And it felt selfish to keep all of that to myself, so I started inviting people to come forward and speak. As I said, I go into meditation. Usually some names will come to me. If no names come to me in meditation, I ask Todd, aka God. In Todd we trust, right? And I also want to extend the invitation, if you've got a great story that you want to tell about how this church has changed your life and you haven't been asked to do it yet, maybe I just don't know about you. So come and see me and talk to me about it. But anyway, this is an opportunity for you all to hear how this beautiful spiritual center has made a difference in people's lives, and we know that it has. And so without further ado, I'm just going to introduce our first testifier. So let's give a lot of Ventura love to Mr. Rick White. Namaste. Namaste.
Thank you so much. I am honored to speak to my family, my friends, and all the people that I've come to love here. For those that also know my counter ego name, it's Rick White, commonly known as Ricardo Blanco. And I'm here today supported by my amazing family. My beautiful wife, Ileana Raquel Milka Shriki Banon White. My compass, my Jewish mensch, my tutor. I want to acknowledge you publicly. I love you. Please stand up, just so you know that this is my wife. Thank you. Next is my amazing son, who I just recently traveled through Italy with on motorcycles. That dude is cool. I'm so proud of you, Kyle. Kyle Lawrence White, please stand and know that you are loved by many. Thank you. And next is my amazing, wonderful, beautiful daughter, Karina Lisa White, who loves me, who guides me, and is my reason to be. Please stand and see the people that love you. Thank you. Thank you. Obviously, I introduce my family because that is my reason to be. That's my support mechanism. And today my testimony is not about how I was lost and now I'm found, but how I was found at an early age by a stranger while working behind a gas station on my bicycle. I was 12 years old. He came up to me and introduced myself, and he asked me if I wanted to know the truth. I said I was willing. And behind the gas station, we prayed together. He said, "This is the beginning of the rest of your life." He told me I was saved. I believed him, and that was the beginning of the rest of my life, and thus my spiritual path took continued steps forward. As a young boy growing up on a farm, I had many walks with God. I was walking with the cows, but I was walking with God and talking with God, and over the years I've continued to ask for answers. And I prayed for my children, and I've prayed with God for my children, and I know that my wife, because God told me, was a gift from God. So thank you very much. So when we, my family, were celebrating a Sunday morning, I think it was about 10 years ago, we were celebrating Sunday morning in our pajamas, listening to classical music, and Ilion read in the Star that a Buddhist monk, Kusala Bhikshu, was coming to town to speak at a church. I said, hey, that sounds cool, let's go. Got out of our pajamas. And that was our introduction to this center. Thank you, Kusala Bhikshu. The center became our new home for our spiritual growth, where we could meet as a family, we could meet new friends, and we could grow every week with the irreverent Reverend Bonnie. Thank you so much. I hope that was okay. Here I have continued to grow in gratefulness. I'm grateful for my life. I'm grateful for this walk with God, and I'm grateful for my family, and for the center, and for all of these teachings. I love the small groups. It's in the small groups that I got to know many people individually and come to love people incredibly. I think it's the smaller groups where I go to a deeper level because I get to know people more intimately. I'm grateful for that continual growth, and I'm grateful for the guests that come to this church. Kusala, Gia, Margaret, Gino, the musicians, and my wife told me, if you don't mention Todd, don't come home. I'm thankful for the practitioners. You know, the practitioners are such a tool for us to use. They pray me up, they pray me through, and they gently guide me along the path. There are some practitioners here that I feel are so close and know me so well, and I didn't tell them anything. They just get me, and I really appreciate that. I love that we embrace all faiths and all religions, that we honor all temples, mosques, and churches, and that we invite all colors, all kinds, all persuasions, and all ages, and even have a good group of motorcycle riders here. That's important. You know, these values of love and prayers and compassion are not typical values of an American man. And here I'm preaching to the choir. But recently, when I was on a motorcycle trip with my buds to Mexico, probably after a couple beers, I decided to tell them about this place and the values that we have here. I was met with some scoffs, some grunts, some snorts, and some ongoing teasing. But they know that I'm genuine, and little by little, they've come to visit here, and now even talk about us in the third person. So, thank you for that. Recently, while riding motorcycles through Italy with my son, we were so present, we were so right there, we were having such a great time, but this center popped into my consciousness, and I remembered who I am. But I also remember the love that I feel here every week. And with this community, I prayed, and I prayed while I was riding motorcycles through Europe, through Italy, through the Tuscany. I'll be more specific. It was beautiful. And I remember that mantra as Kyle and I were just going through the corners, and I was remembering who I am. And thank you very much for that. So with my family and with this community, I can face anything because love is the answer. And here I am, surrounded by my family and the people that love me. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
And our next testifier, if she's ready, Ms. Debbie Blair. Yay. Give her some love.
I brought my Kleenex because when I bring my granddaughter to church, when we're walking down the street, she always says to me, "Are you gonna cry, Grandma?" You always cry at church. So for those of you that I don't know, my name is Debbie Blair, and when Bonnie asked me to speak this morning, I was so honored and so terrified. But also really thankful that I have the opportunity to share with all of you my story. So I want to give you a little bit of background on my religious upbringing. I was raised a good Catholic girl. I went to church 2 times a week, Saturdays for catechism and Sundays for church. I went to confession, communion, I was confirmed. I knew all the rituals, the Bible stories, the prayers, and I even went to an all-girls Catholic high school. But very early on, I realized that I really didn't believe what the nuns and priests were trying to teach me. The priest would be up on the pulpit speaking, and I can remember as young as like 7 years old going, "I don't believe that." And when I would ask questions about that, I would get told I asked way too many questions and just to be quiet. But what I did believe in was I believed in the teachings of Jesus. What I didn't believe in was I didn't believe that I was automatically a sinner. I didn't believe in hell. I didn't believe in the devil. And I didn't believe that Catholics were the only ones going to heaven. So when I graduated high school, I didn't go back. But when I had my eldest daughter, Leah, I wanted to give her a spiritual foundation. So I started going back to church, and this time I chose non-denominational Christian churches. And the thing I liked about that was it actually got me thinking. What the ministers would talk about, I was actually thinking and deciding what I believed and what I didn't believe. Whereas before, when I was a Catholic, I didn't think I could think and have, my own ideas. So some of the ideas I heard in those churches I embraced, and some of them I didn't. And then one day, a friend of mine invited me to come to the Ventura County Church of Religious Science. And when I walked through those doors into the sanctuary, I couldn't believe the message I was hearing. I was like, "Are you kidding me? There's a church that believes the same thing as I've always believed?" I had never even heard of the church. I had never even heard of New Thought before. I didn't know what that was. I felt like I had really come home. I felt like I was home. It was just like this feeling that came over me. And that was in January of 1990. So I've been here ever since. And I have to say that this church has opened my mind and has influenced every aspect of my life, every aspect. So when I first started coming here, I was a businesswoman in a power suit working for corporate America. Now I'm a massage therapist, and I get to practice light and healing with my clients. It influenced the people in my life. I met a whole new group of like-minded friends that thought the same way I did. And I even had some friends that didn't come to this church that now come. It gave me a great environment to raise my 3 children in, and it gave them a spiritual foundation of what I believe in. But the thing that it did most of all is it changed the way I thought about God, and it changed the way I thought about myself. I really learned that loving myself isn't being conceited. So probably the most impactful lessons I've learned here are the power of my thoughts, the power of prayer, and that I can actually co-create. So the power of my thoughts. Okay, so I never ever thought about my thoughts before. Thoughts were just things that popped into my mind. But when I came here, I learned that I could actually focus my thoughts to think the things I wanted instead of the things that I didn't want. And then miracles happened. The practice of the power of prayer. When I used to pray before, I would just spout out memorized verbiage that I had been taught. And when I came here, I took classes and I learned the 5 steps of spiritual mind treatment. And I actually realized that I could have a communication with the divine, a personal communication. And by doing so, I could really co-create a new life, which I did. So like a lot of religious scientists, the first few years, I was all about, once I learned this prayer stuff, I was all about manifesting stuff. And I got quite good at it. But for me, now, it's all about me knowing absolutely that the energy that I call God really does exist, that it connects us all, that it's everywhere present. With it, all things are possible. It is my source and supply. So now what I do is I practice on focusing my attention on what I call the practice. So what that means to me is the practice of being present, the practice of being mindful of what thoughts I let into my mind, the practice of forgiveness, gratitude, trust, and love. And when I do the practice, my life is pretty good. But sometimes I forget, like when I get my feelings hurt, or when I'm being critical of myself or someone else, and I let the train in my head just take off, and then life isn't so good. So over the years, I've had literally hundreds of demonstrations, answers to my prayers, and serendipitous moments, which is my way of thinking God's telling me I'm at the right place at the right time. So I wanted to just share with you one of my most recent ones. So a couple months ago, I came to the Edwin Gaines workshop here at church, and I loved what she talked about. I bought the book, and I went home that afternoon, read the book, and I made a commitment to actually follow her advice. And so if you were here at that workshop, you probably remember that she talked a lot about tithing. And so I realized, reading her book, that I tithed every Sunday, but I really hadn't been tithing because I never gave the full 10% of my income. I would give 5%, 8%, 4%, whatever, but I never gave 10% because I was always looking at my checkbook and letting my checkbook dictate to me how much I could afford to tithe instead of trusting that God is my source and supply. So for the first couple weeks, I wrote 10%, and I did a little hesitantly, but then by the 3rd week, I just did it. And nothing really shifted in my life, nothing really happened, and then in week 4, I had an absolute miracle. And the miracle that I had was that, as you may know, I have a daughter, Nicole, who is in her senior year of college, and I pay for that college, and I also help supplement her income, because she works 2 part-time jobs and goes to school full-time. And so last year, she was awarded a couple grants equaling about $6,500, which really helped with me paying for all this. So this year, I was expecting and praying that I would get the $6,500. So the day came for us to find out how much she was awarded, and I went to the computer and I clicked on the site, and I just really couldn't believe what I saw, because instead of the $6,500, she was awarded grants for over $11,000. I started screaming at the computer, like, what? Thank you, God. How is this even possible? And then I just remembered it's a gift from God, because God is my source and supply. And then just the next thought that popped into my mind was, no, I really don't have to tithe on this, because I took this money out of my savings, and it's just a reimbursement. It's not really income. So I laughed at my ego, and then I thanked my ego for reminding me that 1 minute I can be on the path, and the next minute I can be completely off the path. But then I can take the next moment, or day, or week, or whatever it is, and decide to think a new thought and get right back on that path. So I give thanks every day that I've found this spiritual home, really. I have a blessed life. Life is fabulous. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity, thinking of me. I did not go to her and say I have a story to tell. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you, my church family, but most of all, I want to thank my children. Because my children have been my greatest teachers. They've loved me, they've survived, and thrived, even at the times when I wasn't so connected. I love you. Thank you all.
You did it. That's great. Thank you. Well, I don't think Grandma was the only one who cried, right? I think all of us did a little bit. All right. Our third testifier is Miss Amy Michelson. Let's give her some love. You did a great job, too. Thank you. Thank you. Beautiful.
Good morning, everyone. Now I'm feeling all weepy. So I also want to thank my family who's here. Joe is my family, my husband, who put up with my crankiness because I was a little stressed about talking here today. When I get stressed, I get a little cranky. So I love you, sweetie. Thank you for your support. So when Bonnie asked me to speak, I went into meditation, which is what I do for anything that I have to do. I ask, what is it that needs to move through me? And what really came to me strongly was just how much gratitude I have, and how much gratitude I have for being here for Bonnie. So there we go. Oh, stop. So I have a lot of gratitude for you, for being a great role model. I think for me, and I think for a lot of us, for showing me how to hold opposites and the light and the dark and the paradox of all these questions that we have about our faith and life and things that happen. And I love that you call yourself a paradork. And that you're also willing to push on the strict doctrine of religious science and really explore and go where no minister has gone before. So I think that Bonnie is the Starship Enterprise of religious science. And when I come here on Sundays and I sing I Am Remembering, I also am very grateful because I forget very often. And excuse me, I think I need a tissue. Thank you. It's hard for me to admit because, you know, I'm a practitioner and everything, so I'm not supposed to forget. I'm supposed to remember. But I know from what you shared, and, you know, is there anyone else who kind of falls off the faith wagon now and then, like a little bit? So I thank you also for being so authentic with your spiritual path and your challenges. And I know that in this center, because Bonnie is so authentic, that I'm willing and able to be kinder to myself with my challenges and my spiritual challenges on my path, and know that I'm allowed to feel everything. I'm not just, if I'm not thinking right, then there's something wrong. It's all okay, and I can feel the full spectrum of my emotions and know that I'm one with God. Because you know what? It's either all God or it's not. Right? So I also want to thank you, Bonnie, for holding, this is all about Bonnie all the time. You just have to take it, because I love you.
Thank you.
For holding a space for me to get my practitioner's license again. I had gotten my practitioner's license at Agape in Los Angeles in 2002, and for many reasons it just wasn't a fit, and I had let it lapse, and when Bonnie kind of gently suggested that I might want to do it, I was a little ambivalent. I knew about all the homework, and so I wasn't really sure, and yet you really held a space for me of kind of, it's okay. Again, it was okay to not be sure. I had so much permission. I don't think I would have done it unless I had that. And so it was just this incredible journey, this incredible intimate journey. And I went on that journey with Reverend Bonnie and Judy Pando and Susan Seal and Fred Mondragon and Carol Lotz, and then Mike and Fred as our TAs. And then out of that came the Fab Four. For those of you who don't know about the Fab Four, that's Lita and Maria and Sue and myself. The four of us were in prac together. So it was this incredible, intimate group. And we're kind of like spiritual war buddies. Like we're in the prayer trenches together. And out of those classes and that relationship, I now have this amazing support group for the rest of my life. And I'm so grateful for that, and it's worth all the thought papers and flashcards 1,000 times over, 1,000,000 times over. So I love my Fab Four. And I also have a lot of gratitude and want to thank all of you for just being this incredible congregation and for the smiles and the hugs when I walk up here, maybe cranky, or whatever stuff is going on, and then walk up those steps, and there's just so much love. And it's so rare. It's so rare. And I know that the power of us as a collective entity is really infinite. That love, just what we do here, can move mountains. So I'm very, very grateful for all of you. Another thing I'm grateful for is all the friends that I've found here. One is the one and only Rick White, who's sharing the pulpit with me today. Just wonderful friends and relationships. And there's also another thing, which is a really super fun part of my serious spiritual growth. Thank you, Bonnie, for asking me to be the practitioner for your dogs. Bonnie's dogs, Barty and Saraswati, or Bartok and Sarah, are Vizsla Hungarian pointers. And my husband Joe and I have a German short-haired pointer named Honey. And so the pointer connection runs really deep. And I'm a dog practitioner, and I'm proud of it. So you might be wondering what my position, my duties consist of, and no duty. That was for you, yeah. So of course it's prayer. Of course I pray for Bonnie's dogs, but more importantly, we get to compose really silly dog songs. So I'd like to share a few of the greatest hits with you. There's I'm a Little Pointer, sung to the tune of I'm a Little Teapot. And then who could forget Feeling Pointy? The cover of the Simon and Garfunkel hit, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da, Feeling Pointy. So then here is my most recent practitioner email assignment from Bonnie. Hi, Amy. Would you please pray for your client, Saraswati? She has a little mange. I wrote a song about it to the tune of Away in a Manger. So now I would like to invite Bonnie up on stage to sing it with me, and would you all please join us?
Oh, thank you.
All right, take it away, Chris. Yeah. Rick White, our Vanna Rick, will help you out with the lyrics.
I got mine.
Okay.
Go away, little mange that's on top of my head. You're itchy and scratchy and turning quite red. The Demodex mites have been eating my coat. They gave me a bald spot and I hope they croak. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Rick.
It's a good gig. Yeah. But all joking aside, there is absolutely a deep spiritual meaning to our relationships with our animals. Bonnie, Reverend Bonnie has shared with us that she accepted the position at this church in Ventura because she knew it was the best place for her beloved pointer, Stella. Oh, I know. Who's no longer, who made her transition, and we love Stella. All right. And so for Bonnie, she was really led by her love for her dog. And I too, when I lived in Los Angeles, moved and chose a neighborhood because I knew that there was more space and more room to run for my dog. And soon after I had moved there, my dog made friends with another dog, and it turned out that that dog's owner had just been diagnosed with breast cancer. And I had this intuitive kind of hit, this feeling like, I should probably go get my first mammogram, which I did. And it turned out that I had a very aggressive form of breast cancer. And I was extremely fortunate that I caught it early. And so my dog saved my life. Yeah, go dogs. So why choose where you live because of a dog? Why choose a place where there's space to run free and express boundless joy? Isn't maybe that's the same as choosing God? So thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, Stella, Bonnie's pointer, for pointing the way and bringing Bonnie here to us, and for choosing Ventura Center for Spiritual Living as your home. Thank you. Thank you.
Let's hear it for all the testifiers. Yay. Yeah. Yes. And I invite you to please be seated and we'll pray. All right. And let's just take a moment to soak into this beautiful, beautiful energy, these hearts open wide, this power and this presence of the living God that is so full in us today. As we have opened our hearts, opened our minds, opened our ears, opened ourselves to hear the spiritual truth of existence, that truly there is only one life, and that life encompasses motorcycles and college grants and pointers and you and me and every single being, every single thing, every single thought, every single feeling here in this vast universe that is vast beyond our knowing. And so with words that cannot really capture God, I simply open to receive and allow and witness that presence of God as it takes hold of me and my life and takes hold of the collective life of this community as it spreads its wings within each of us and soars, as it loves, as it lives, as it expresses, as it fills itself with such grace by filling us with such grace. I give thanks for the beautiful words that have been spoken today. I give thanks for the hearts that have been transformed. I trust that every single person here is seeking meaning, seeking depth, seeking power, seeking healing, seeking solace, seeking joy, seeking peace, seeking love, seeking understanding, that all of these seekings have already been found. And that we rest and resonate into that wholeness, into that holiness and that being that is the truth of who we are, and just know this to be true for ourselves and for everyone and for the entire universe. And so I give thanks for this abundant service. I give thanks for this homecoming. I give thanks for the grace and the power and the love that has brought us all here together and that will continue to celebrate itself through our shared and individual lives. I give thanks for this spiritual center and everyone here today and everyone that we hold in our hearts. I bless this great teaching as I bless all paths to God, temples, churches, mosques, ashrams. I bless atheists and fundamentalists, knowing that everyone is a blessing. And with a heart that is so filled with love, so filled with blessedness, so filled with good, I say, thank you, Spirit, thank you, God, and I release these words into the divine mystery, and together we say, and so it is. I've announced everybody else, so let me announce you too. Ariana Cohen, let's give her some love.
When I think of home, I think of a place where there's love overflowing. I wish I was home, I wish I was back there with the things I've been knowing. Wind that makes the tall grass bend into leaning. Suddenly the snowflakes that fall have a meaning, sprinkling the sea makes it all clean. And maybe there's a chance for me to go back now that I have some direction. It would sure be nice to be back home where there's love and affection.